Welcome back. Welcome back. It is Community Beacon. It is Friday. Love to see you. If we could, I love to see this brother on the other side of the screen, but I love to
Yeah.
hear and see from you as well. Shouts out to all of you that are tuning in as we go live on this Friday. This time just comes up so quickly. It's like while we're doing it, it's just this steady, constant. Here's Friday. Here's Friday. Here's Friday, and we're so consistent with it that it's just like we know it's coming up. We know we have a show that we're gonna do. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. You see the names on the screen. This is Palm Beach Mike. I'm Mike Seville here in Palm Beach, Florida.
Palm Beach, my.
With the sound effects. You're not gonna hear those sound effects anywhere else but on the Community Beacon. Okay? Everything else is, people can manufacture, but for right now, that sound effect you heard before that sound effect was only on Community Beacon because
That's it.
only the person on the other side of the screen could do it. Is that's Joe Simmons of the Tenacity Foundation. Shout out to my brother, the what do you call it? The human sound machine.
Oh man, don't put that on me. What was the one guy back in the police academy that used to do that? Black
Yeah,
dude. Oh man, that
the
guy
but
told me.
yeah. What was it? Yeah, I remember that. That was we just dated ourselves right there. I,
Yeah,
with
I
with the
guess so.
with the police academy for sure. Police
Hey, all y'all got to
academy.
do is go back a few episodes into the last year where Mike separated me from him with his date, but then all of a sudden he hit a certain number, and all of a sudden he's talking about some we. Now it's we.
It's we. It's we. Police academy nerds. Revenge of
Yeah.
the Nerds, all that good stuff. Hey, we can go down memory lane, but we won't.
Yeah, man.
We won't. We're gonna jump into this week 3 of habits. Man, uh just real quick thinking about what we did the last couple of weeks. First week we spoke about the awareness. The brother brought up being the agency, having agency over your life, like these kind of things that we're attempting, or you should not attempting, we're doing as we start to think about the habits that we've already have, that we're things that we're consistent with, so on and so forth. Last week we really jumped into environment and the energy, the people, places, things, what is going on around us in regards to that. And this week, week 3, we're going to be focused on the rhythm and the resistance. So Joe, I think last week I kicked it off. Let me hear you kick it off, and your habits and people dealing with rhythm and resistance. What's your take on it?
Man, I love it. I love it. Palm Beach, Mike. You know what I'm saying? Listen, y'all. Hey, I like what you just started off with. You know, changing your wording, and that's even before I even step into the habits, rhythm and resistance. And I was thinking about that, and it just came to me. I rather do and fail than to try and not
Hmm.
even complete. You know, and I know you didn't use the word try, but that's what rang inside my brain. It just queued up. It's like, there's certain words that just indicate, hey, you know what? I'm a try, but the thing is like we're here doing this and maybe it doesn't work out. That's okay because we did it. But if
Hmm.
it does work out, it's because we gave everything that we had in it. And I'd much rather leave everything on the field than to show up on the field and not take everything with me. So, little football reference for those y'all out there playing football. That's something that one of your coaches probably told you at some point in time. Leave it all on the field. Don't go home with an L and knowing you had a little bit more to give. And I think that rolling that thought process into habits, leave it all on the field, y'all. If we're going to create new habits, if we're going to make new habits, we need to leave it all on the field. It's got to become a mindset that we are going to leave it all on the field. And what do I mean by that? Going into rhythm and resistance, right? So achieving goals is like, it's a universal pursuit. People all over the world are pursuing their goals, right? Aspirations, their vision, all of these different words that we use to symbolize our touchdown, our touchdown, right? All of these different things we symbolize to to give us an indicator of where we are headed, and if we have success, we have all these indicating words that tell us we have achieved success. And the nice thing about this is that when we utilize these words and when we're very specific, very intentional, we know that we have success. And so that's something to think about all in itself, as far as clarity. And I know we're not going to dive into that because we've jumped into clarity so many times, but it's got to come up, because if you're developing habits and you want to jump into the rhythm of habits and you want to understand the resistance in forming habits, you need to know the goal. You need to know where are you going? Like Yogi Berra, he said, if you don't know where you're going, I'm gonna paraphrase this, but if you don't know where you're going, then any road will do. So you can take any pathway you want to get to a place you don't know where it is. I mean, if you're not, but it's different. If I'm going to travel from Florida to Virginia, I'm going to hop on I-95 because it's the straightest pathway to get there with the least amount of resistance. Woo! Oh man, that thing just worked out really well. So when we start to think about this, it's a universal pursuit, but just think about this. You need to be clear on where you're going, because if not, you can develop habits that will not sufficiently support the destination that you want to be at. So whether we're discussing holistically personal development, professional success, well-being, health, right? Let's think. The path to success has a lot of obstructions, challenges. These things come up. We're going to talk about them as resistance. And what it requires is sustained effort. You heard the brother talking about effort many, many times over the last month or so, talking about effort. As a matter of fact, I recall one episode where he said, I'd rather not even say it's about time. I'd rather say it's about effort. And so let's talk about that effort too, because the effort makes a difference. Effort and energy. I say effort, energy, and time, EET, make a huge difference. But let's just look at effort right now, because what we're attempting to do with habits is we're attempting to create a behavioral change. And in order to create a behavioral change, you got to have consistency. There has to be some type of consistency, right? And with consistency, how do I get there? Well, rhythm is going to help a whole lot out with consistency, because habits are automatic and repeatable behaviors, and they serve as a foundation for long-term goal achievement. And in order for us to be able to get where we want to be at, we got to get in the rhythm. Now, they got a word that's being used all over right now, and maybe it's not being used as much, but over the COVID time, it emerged. And it's not a new word, it's just a word that started to be used, and that's called flow. Flow, get in the flow. That's what people start saying, get in the flow. What are we talking about, get in the flow? You got to become rhythmic. You got to get in the rhythm. Get in the rhythm of what you're doing. And when you do, you at that point in time, you begin to form habits that will lead you to what you're pursuing. So today, that's what we're talking about. Rhythm versus the resistance. And, we're going to dive into like this to somewhat of a framework. What'd you say, bro?
I'm with it. Let's jump into it. Let's get deep into it. That's what Community Beacon is about, and hopefully we'll leave you with some tangible ways of I'm not hopefully. You're going to be left with some tangible things that you can start to put into place as we dive deeper into the subject of habits, specifically on today's episode, the rhythm and resistance. And so, brother, I loved when you spoke just in the resistance part. This is life. Tis life. You're going to come up against some things. I can always remember, and I've told this story several times, as I was driving down I 95 one morning. I think I was going to, it was either photos or an inspection. I think it was photos actually. I was headed towards Del Rey, and I was by myself because it was a Sunday morning. It had to be around 9 o'clock in the morning. Nobody was on the road. And as I drove and I looked forward, there was just a chair, like a office chair, just floating around on I-95, right? So if I had taken my eyes off of the road, I would have ran into this chair because what is a chair doing on I-95? You know, sometimes when you look up and there's no cars ahead of you, so you're not really worried about anything, but if you're not paying attention, just as life happens, you know, this chair just happened to be in the middle of 95, just rolling along its way. And it was a challenge. It was an obstacle. It could have been resistance had I not been paying attention, had I not been clear about what I was doing, which was driving at the time. So being present helps in this rhythm as we work through rhythm and resistance. The brother mentioned flow, and that's immediately where my mind went as we were going on this subject, was this ebb and the flow, right? Life is that when you get in a rhythm is going to dictate ebbs and flows. Otherwise it's nothing. It's the baseline, which I want to get into now. As we get into this flow, the brother brought up, in I know during COVID and probably even before COVID, but people were aiming on getting into this what we call a flow state. So okay. Yeah. So so I want us to really look at this flow, right? And getting into this quote unquote flow state, which is awesome. I mean, the funny thing about this is that the other morning I'm having my morning chats with Chat GPT, and I'm like, Chat GPT, when during this morning time, but you know, the first 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of the morning, like I'm in a state of just what a person would call flow. I'm receptive to things. I'm very present. I'm positive and I'm optimistic. How do I sustain this throughout the day? I know there's times for me to sleep, you know, that might be the ebb portion, or time to pull back or whatever it is, the ebb, but how do I sustain and keep the momentum of this ebb and flow throughout the day? Or excuse me, through this flow throughout the day, so that I can intentionally do that as well as have an intentional ebb. And as we went back and forth, I started to think about something, and here's what I came up with, was that the flow state is the ebb and flow state is almost like a trap. And this is where I think it gets tricky when we're starting to establish our habits. Because if you establish habits based on your flow, when everything is going well, everything is moving in a direction that it wants to go in, you're liable to have these habits that aren't sustainable because it's not happen. The flow doesn't happen all the time. There's going to be an ebb. There's a flowing in of the tide, and there's a receding of the tide. The ebb is the receding of the tide. So you can't you don't want to establish your habits on just the flow part, because then you don't know what to do during the ebb part. And then you don't want to establish, definitely don't want to establish your habits based upon the ebb part when you when the flow happens. You know, you'll be caught off guard. You know, when things have happened positively, but if you're basing it on the ebb part, you'll be going in a different direction. You're liable to get thrown off kilt. Just think of this metaphor of the tide coming in and going back out. So what you would want to do is, I think it's important that you establish your own baseline. And the baseline that you have isn't on your best day, and it's not on your worst day. It's what you are sustaining currently through life. You need to figure that out. What
Mm.
exactly is my life like consistently? Like we talk about, to be consistent. You are consistent, right? That's whatever you're doing consistently is where got you to where you are currently. It's important to figure that out. It's important not to get caught up too with the highs, not to get caught up too much with the lows. Just day after day, night after, what exactly? Establish whatever it is, whatever your baseline is, right? Because what you want to do over time is you want to raise your baseline. That's what you're going to use your habits to do. These new established habits, or you're going to keep some of the habits that you have, because all of your habits aren't bad, right? We're not saying that it's just a negative thing, but you want to establish your habits based on your baseline. Now, here's the interesting part about it is that the baseline is boring, right? Like the
Mm.
baseline could end because there's nothing erratic happening, right? Like when you're all the way up, like there's this high. Like I'm feeling it. I'm in this highness. Everything is going right for me. As the light, when you're driving, the lights are just all green, right? Like, I'm just hitting all these green lights. And then when you got to get somewhere, all of a sudden you're hitting these red lights, right? So now this is the ebb. Like all of a sudden, this is bound to happen. At some point in time, the light is going to turn red. It just so happened caught you, but you're not prepared for that, right? So you're constantly going up and down. This is what's happening. But the baseline is that sometimes the lights are red, sometimes it's not. What's the average time it's going to take me to get from point A to point B normally? Say you're going to the gym. You go to the gym every day. What's the average amount of time? Some days, all the lights, you don't hit any school traffic, whatever's going on. You're straight there. It takes you 10 minutes. Sometimes it'll take you, oh man, I got this bus in front of me. And then you got to handle it. Now you got to make the adjustment. But normally it's going to take me about 10 minutes, right? When things are just happening normally. And we don't even think about those times when it just takes us 10 minutes. We only think about, no, let me not say that. Sometimes we're not focused on those. Oftentimes we're not focused on that because it's just a regular way of happening. So what we do is we establish the baseline. Another drawback of the ebbs and flows is to make sure of what your point of reference is. And I pulled this quote out. I just thought it was awesome. The Quran says, "Surely the way you strive is different." Right? Surely the ways that we strive are different. So if my point of reference is Joel on Instagram, which we tend to have our highlights on Instagram. If my point of reference is that, and I'm not meeting, and that's where I think that I should be at as far as my baseline, I've already lost. Another saying says that, what is it? Uh, oh man, what's the saying? Uh, when you if I'm competing, not competing, but if I'm looking at Joel, comparison is the what is it? What's the saying, brother? Comparison is the um
Yeah,
oh
I
man.
can't I
Yeah.
can't help you out with that
Yeah.
one, but it sounds familiar. It
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
familiar, but I know it
Comparison is
it has
is a
something.
theft of joy. Comparison is the theft of joy. So
Mm.
if I'm comparing myself to this Instagram person, right, versus what that my actual baseline is, and that's my point of reference, then I'm gonna lose then as well. And then if my point of reference, so your point of reference should be yourself, and really what you're gonna say is, how am I doing today? Because if I'm just getting 1% better, that's great. But how figure out what your point of reference is. So, and we all strive differently. Like I said, the Quran says, surely the ways that we strive are different. So I want to make sure that as we figure these things out and then we figure out what habits we're changing, what habits we're keeping, we draw our conclusions based on this standard baseline. Just figure that out. I think I spoke about it before. The first episode, the awareness part. Just what is going on? Like what exactly is going on with your life? I was talking to Mark and we were talking about nutrition and working out and so on and so forth. And I said, listen, I got a plan. I said it's almost like a 36-week plan, but you can scale it however you want to scale it. I said for the first 4 to 8 weeks, 4, 8, 12, whichever one you decide, there's just different steps to it. Don't change anything, right? Just figure out what your baseline is based on and how you do that. Peter Drucker says what gets measured gets improved. If all you do is just write down what you're eating every day, that's it. Don't substitute anything. Don't don't feel try not to anyways. When you start writing it down, it gets weird. But don't Don't judge yourself on the bag of chips that you're craving tonight because that's what you want. Just write it down. I had a bag of chips. This is this I I normally around 3 o'clock I have to have my this food, this coffee. I have to have this drink. I have to do this. Just write it down for the first 4 weeks, right? And just with in that alone, you're good because that's the way our body is. Once we start paying attention to this, it's gonna change. But don't worry about it. Just figure out what is my baseline. What am I at? It wasn't just today I felt really good and I ate really good, but then the next 6 days that's not the case. So you had your high, you had your low. Just figure out what it is and don't get caught up too in it. So just establish your baseline. What you think about it, bro?
Yeah, man, I like it. I think I see what you just gave was perfect because it's foundational, right? This is foundational. I'm gonna call it foundational truth. That's what I'm gonna call it, foundational truth. Because when you're talking about habits, like you said, we have habits. All of us have habits. Whether we're talking about at this point in time, we're looking towards developing habits that serve us. So let's keep that thought process in mind. Habits that serve us, and in what way, Joel? In the way that helps us bring about the success that we desire to have. That's what I want to say. We're looking for habits that serve us in the way that brings about the success we desire to have, right? So there needs to be a foundation at some point in time in order for our habits to serve us and for us to benefit or for us to gain the success that we desire to have. And so the first things first is always it starts with me. Search ourselves to figure out what is going on. This is what we call self-awareness, right? Knowing who I am, what motivates me, what keeps me, where am I going? Again, where am I going? When you started talking about the plan for your health and your workout regime and all of these different things that came into that, it's like all of those pieces to the people, all of those pieces are a part of the plan that will eventually become a habit, right? Writing stuff down, it eventually becomes a habit. Those are not the end goal. So the end goal makes a huge difference in what type of habit you have. Now, when we think about it from the foundational aspect of it, which most of us don't think about it from the foundational aspect of it. So our habits are not necessarily ones that will give us the success that we desire to have because they are simply habits of old narrative, right? They're just things that we grew up with and they either define us or they don't. But if we don't have self awareness, we don't know whether they define us or they don't yet because we haven't acknowledged or established the goals that we want. So when we think about it like goals are endpoint driven, constant evaluation. This is why writing stuff down and checking it, like Santa Claus, writing it down, checking it twice, going to find out who's naughty or nice, right? So if you want to figure out if your habits are naughty or nice, write them down, check them twice, and you'll figure out if they are beneficial to your goal or if they are non-beneficial, right? And this is also that repetition. Keeping up with that repetition also helps us to maintain clarity and direction. And then like I put inside the gathering, I put a message out there inside the gathering based off of some words that Steve Harvey has stated. And I just love these words that Steve Harvey has stated. So I ended up writing a full message, and it seems like it's getting a lot of love is coming from it. But it was, what is the path to success? And I just put, I believe part of the path is preparation. Success, and this is Steve Harvey's quote, success isn't about luck. It's about preparation meeting opportunity. That's what Steve Harvey said. I took that and I ran with it because preparation is developing consistency in life. It's not about, you're going to get the opportunity that you want, but do you have what it takes when it comes there? And so developing habits that will benefit you is a great tool to be ready when the day comes for what you want. So, like I said, goals, we talked about that. All right. So, as far as habits go, habits are ongoing, automatic, right? They're low. The effort in a habit is low once it's formed. It can be difficult in the beginning, but once they're formed, habits don't take a lot of effort. This is big because effort contributes to the success that we have in life. But when we create the habits, then the amount of effort and energy, mind you, is lower. So the rhythm, brother was talking about ebbs and flows like the ocean, it becomes so much easier for the flow of life to be easy. And I guess I should do like air quotes with easy, because what's easy to one is not always easy to another. But it's because we have created a habit that has made this thing not as difficult. It does not feel like work anymore. If you have a habit of saving $50 out of every paycheck, and you've done that for 2 years towards your savings, it is not hard for you to save up $600 a year. It's easy. It's easy. That's super easy because you're doing 50 out of every paycheck. And if that equated to $50 a month, that's $600 easy. If that equated to $100 a month, then that's $1,200. You get where I'm going with this. It just grows exponentially, but it's something that you've done for such a long time. Now, in the very beginning, you're going to want and need that $50 for the hamburger, for the coffee, and every single time you go out to do anything, you're going to think about that $50. And that $50 is your crux. That is your resistance. And it's not that the $50 is your resistance. It's the desire to have something that is not benefiting your end goal. Now, if your end goal is to just have $600 a year or have $2,000 a year inside your savings, then this habit forming is going to help you get there. But what's going to happen is you're going to think about shoes, clothing, vacation, and you're going to get tired. You're going to get whooped, and all these things are going to happen. And this is your resistance. This is your resistance. And the resistance is what is going to break down the pathway, right? It's either going to break down the new pathway that you're attempting to design, or it's going to lift up the old pathway that you were walking in. It's going to say, hey, listen, I know you want to do this high and mighty stuff over here and save up a whole bunch of money, da, 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 da. Have you ever really been out of money, da, 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 da? And even when you were out of money, weren't you able to borrow some, da, 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 da? And all of these things are going to happen inside your mind that's going to justify you staying on the pathway that you used to be on. That's resistance. It's resistance. It's negative resistance for positive change. And remember, if we're thinking about a habit, creating this habit, we have to have a goal in mind. So my goal is to do X, and I don't do X now. Me hitting this goal of X, in my mind, is success. That is me running the football 100 yards down the field and getting into the end zone and doing my dance. That's my goal line. And so now that I have my goal line, I'm creating certain actions. And I'm applying effort to these actions because I believe they will get me to the goal line where I can do my celebratory dance and I will feel as if I have success. And so habits will cause me to create new pathways. And the obstruction is going to be my mind forcing me back into my old pathways. Dr. Miles, what's his name? Miles Monroe.
That's it.
Dr. Miles Monroe said, you have to force yourself. He's got an excellent YouTube video about how you have to force yourself. This, I'm going to name that work. You have to work extra hard, extra diligently to overcome yourself and create a new habit, and then you have to get in the rhythm of it. The rhythm of it. And the rhythm of it is your consistency. And you have to force yourself into consistent efforts to create a pathway for you to get your success. And your success is only yours, it's nobody else's. Like Mike was just saying, you can't look at Joel and look at the bar that I've set for myself, be like, oh, look at his IG. He's got 5 people that give him a thumbs up. Well, if I can just get 5, I'll be as successful. No, that's terrible. It's terrible.
It is.
Even if to somebody they just want to have 5, maybe they just want to have 5. That's great. I'm good. I'm glad for you, but don't set me as the bar. And if you are going to set any individual, or any purpose, then make sure you get the highest one, guys. Get the highest one that you possibly can get, because at least, and then do the research on the individuals, on the purpose. Do the research and find out the why. Simon Sinek says start with why. Find out the why. Why do they do what they do? Because sometimes we are setting goals on mediocrity, and we're just raising the bar to somebody else's level of mediocrity.
Mm.
By the time we get to wherever we desire to be, we still are nowhere. So if you're going to set yourself, always look to the mountaintop, always set your heights on the stars. Hey, if you don't make the stars, there's an old saying, maybe you'll hit the moon, and you can be happy because look where you come from the valley to the tip of the mountaintop. You've done well. And now it's time for you to set your vision on something higher. So listen, rhythm is important, because what rhythm does is it takes something that is difficult. When applying effort and consistency, it takes something that is difficult and it makes it not necessarily less difficult, but it makes the resistance easier. It makes it like something that you can manage. It becomes manageable. And there is less resistance now. It doesn't mean, it's like when you lift weights, the weights are not less heavy. No, you have built strength, mental strength, fortitude. You have become stronger emotionally, spiritually, or physically, and you simply can bear more weight. It's not any less difficult in the sense of how heavy it is, but the difficulty level is gone because you are used to doing it. Your consistency has helped you develop muscles where there were none, and now you can support this newfound weight in ways that you were not able to do it before. That is the benefit of the rhythm. So when we're creating habits, remember, we're going back to that foundation. And then from that foundation, we're creating the new goal. This is who I am. This is who I believe I want to be, or who I desire to be, or who I see myself as being. And this is what I want. Then I'm creating a plan. This is what I want to do. And this is my effort, my energy, my consistency, my time in doing this thing. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to force myself to do it against my own natural will, so that I can erase the neural pathways of my old man, and I can create the neural pathways of the new man, and I can make it to that field of success where I get to do my touchdown dance.
This is it, man. This is actual. I almost, as you were speaking on it, brother, it's almost like it's a maturing process, right? I think
Mm.
sometimes we get to a place and we just don't mature with, and we can tell we don't mature because we're doing the same old things consistently. I would say it again. It's not that you're not consistent. You are consistent. It's just the habits and the behaviors that you've chosen to be consistent with, to the point they're just so easy. Like it's not even a thought. And so day after day, you're just going through this same thing, and it's not so easy. Here's a quick tool as well.
Mm,
Use what we spoke about last week, this environment. Get around people that are, I'm not saying that you buy into and you're not ascribing to be this person, but you get around these people that are doing this effortlessly in your mind, right? Like if you start to see them, there's a reason as we go through this as this series. I get a chance to reflect, which is also a part of the rhythm. You get a chance to reflect, and you
mm,
can reflect in a positive way. I got a chance to reflect on some of the habits that people point out to me, because oftentimes the habits that are done with that automatically. I was like, well, this getting up early, like, what is it about? Like, like what, like, how did I become this? Like, how is this, me? How do I identify as this? Like, I'm just up, and it's four, whatever time it is, and I'm just up, and I'm just, you know, and I'm looking at my son as he's getting ready for school, and I know he's looking at me like, what is he doing? I mean, even my youngest son, Paul, is like, Daddy, where are you? Like, what are you doing? It's bedtime. It's nighttime. Go to sleep. And I'm just up, and I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing. And I just thought back. I said, okay, oh boom. It was my mom and dad. Right? Like it was seeing her get up, to me anyways, effortlessly, day after day, to 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, she's just up. Didn't you go to bed after me? Like, what are you doing up now? My dad is like, as soon as he touches his feet, and he's here now. Has some good goat head soup. If y'all want some goat head soup, you're in the area, come check us out. But he's outside right now, just working in the sun. So what are these things that they're doing automatically? And we had to, I'm talking about health. We had to talk about health as well. And when he comes down, I'm like, man, you're looking good. He's 7 years old. He works as like he's, like he was young, like he's still a young person. But it's his day after. It's his habit of just getting up and just going out in the sun and just putting in the work. He probably, he has that old man strength. I had to lift up this 80-pound thing of thin set. And guys, I'm pushing weight in the gym, right? Like, I'm lifted. If you find me in the gym, you're like, yeah, he's lifting. So I'm probably above average in regards to strength of my age. But I had to lift the 80-pound thin set from the car to the front of the house, and I'm like, I felt it. And then I was like, but he went to Home Depot and got it. So what it, you know, and he's 7 years old, and he just put it in the car. But that's because day after day, moment after moment, he's in the sun, he's getting his vitamin D, he eats a certain kind of way. Like, these are the little things that he puts together. He doesn't even think about it. He's probably not even aware of it. And day after day, this is his baseline. He just gets better, and he at least maintains it. And now when you interject something, you know, you should take creatine, or maybe you get you have some protein, eat a little bit more protein. It just makes his muscles fuller. Like, it just adds to it. But he's not even worried about that, because it's just because those are the flow things that get you into the flow. But day after day, we're just going with this energy. So your habits that we're creating now, the habits that we're saying that's going to bring us along this journey of success. Because I want to encourage you all. I'm having and I have the talks with the brother. I'm having the talks with Beethoven. I pay attention to these little habits, the good habits that they have, and I got to tell them about it, right? Like, I like to encourage, so you be that to someone else as well. Notice someone who's just doing something, and encourage them in regards to that habit, and you bring an awareness to them. It automatically, if you're giving to them, you'll receive it, because then you'll start to notice these good things about yourself. So get in the habit of noticing some great habits that you're already doing. You're already getting up and brushing your teeth. I try to do this with my kids, especially if you had kids, do this as well. Notice the good habits. Oh man, I know they supposed to do it, right? Like, a lot of things be like, yeah, they supposed to do it. He's supposed to put the dishes back in the sink or whatever. And he's been doing it consistently. But start noticing that in them. Man, I know shouts out to Elijah. This kid is getting up. He catches the bus. He's up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't even have to talk to him about what time he goes to bed anymore. It used to be, oh, you need to go to. Listen, keep getting up. He's up. Just this morning, I saw him. All right, Dad, I'm gone. Fixes his clothes. He has his, and then he smells good too because he putting on his little his little cologne. So I'm smelling it as he goes out the door. And I'm like, yeah, he's just in the habit of just, this is what I'm doing, fine, whatever. So now I'm just encouraging him, like, well, he's gonna come in later on this afternoon, and I'm gonna say, man, hey, listen, you getting up in the morning, and I appreciate it. And I know his mentality. He'd be like, I got to go to school, right? And I'm just like, but yeah, but I'm not. I don't have to get up and wake you up. Like you're automatically doing these things. So you just want to be in the habit, get in the habit of encouraging them, and then get in the habit of noticing yourself. But by noticing them, you're going to automatically start noticing some habits that you have going on. And so now, once we get there, we're realizing these habits. We're not paying the, we're looking at people, but not in the sense of competition or comparison. It's like, okay, this person is doing this, so this is human nature. We're going to look at a person. Be careful with with that, and then say, and it's not out of a place of jealousy or envy. You start to say, man, I admire this in people. I do this all the time. I love doing this. I look at Joel, I say, man, I admire the brother's compassion. I admire the brother's patience as he speaks when he's listening to us when he talks. Like, I admire these things within the brother. Because you got to pay attention to it. Because you don't know, most people don't know what to do with envy or jealousy. Call it, see what it is, and say, okay, well, I'm just going to start using this to raise my baseline, because what kind of joy is the brother having when he's doing that? I know the joy that he gives me, and you can't give me something that he doesn't have himself, right? So there's joy in this, but just by noticing and admiring and complimenting it, let it come out of your mouth. Make that a habit, right? Like make this a habit, and then you start to look at this rhythm that you're dealing with. So now let's get it. So let me touch on the resistance portion, because it's there. And I saw Lil Duval. He made a post recently, and he said, don't you get he's a comedian, so he's laughing when he's saying this, but he notices these things. It's a good observation. That's what comedians do, right? The greatest comedians observe these truths, and some truths that we don't really talk about. That's what makes them so funny. It's funny because it's true. So he said, he said, don't you ever get mad at people who are complaining about something that's really nothing? Right? That was a comment that he said. Don't you get mad at it? He started laughing about it. You're going through something, you're complaining, and it's really nothing. So when you take a step back, like how does a person get there? How is it a molehill to him, but it's a mountain to other people? It's because of the resistance. It's these little things along the way. So then when you're at your baseline and then you get hit with an obstacle, right? The first time it's gonna be whoa, it's shocking. And some people you're gonna call out, you may want to call out for help or support, which is nothing wrong with that. But try to do as much lifting as you possibly can. Don't get pulled over or stop on the side of the road and you're looking for help to push the car, and you doing less pushing than the person who stopped over to help you, right? That's the easiest way. Like you just not gonna sit in the car and be like, okay, I need help. You say I need help with pushing, and then you jump in the car, you close the door, and you be like, and you yell out the door like, just go on and do it. Right? Like get going, man. Hey, you pump your feet, right? Like I was no, you get you. If anything, you tell them, hey, you try to, get up front and steer it, and I'm gonna get behind, and I'm gonna put forth this effort, right? Like you're getting stronger in these things. You're starting, and even in that, you start to come up with different ways of how to handle this resistance, right? You get these challenges that come up. This is what it is. This is why you meet somebody and they're looking like, oh, they reach a certain place, and you be like, man, I came up on this problem, and they're like that, you know what I mean, like that, like what? Start to become resourceful. I really say that's a part of being a man. That's a conversation I had with Beethoven yesterday. I said it's not about the money. It's not you start to become resourceful. You're making these adjustments. Like that's what you want to do with these things. And you get in the rhythm of that. Oh, and now Beethoven said yesterday, and I resonated with it. He said, "Man, I get excited when I get a challenge, right? Like something comes up, and now I'm excited. Like, oh, I'm now my mind is saying I can fix this. Like, oh, because I've done it before. I have. Oh man, praise God. I have the evidence of it. I have the receipts. I've done this before, or something similar to, or I got past something before. I'm gonna get past this. Hey, just give me some time. Give me a little second. Be open minded. Be patient with me. You be patient with yourself. Be open minded to yourself, and boom, there you go. And then I want to. Last thing is this thing of this point of reference. When you're using these point of reference, that's all. It's a time not to compare yourself or be in competition. This point of reference is an awesome time to gain exposure. Like this is I'm expose yourself to this different way of thinking. Me and my father having a conversation about this mastermind I'm going to do in Jamaica, right? Like I'm thinking about putting this all things together and exactly how it's going to go, and the cost and the overhead and so on and so forth. And then he said, "Oh, don't forget to put in taxes." He said because recently they came up with a new law where they got to put in these taxes. And I said, yeah, you're right. He said, and then they're gonna take my tax. They take your taxes, they don't do anything with it. That's what we were saying, right? And I said, you know how I used to feel about, because last year I paid more taxes than I care to remember, right? But I remember a couple years ago, I was with Jim, and Jim had to pay taxes. I don't think he'll mind because the government knows how much he paid, right? I don't think he minds me saying it. He said, "You ever seen a check like this before?" And he showed me his check. It was like for 120 something $1,000 or something. He's like, "This is going to the tax man." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh man, you need to find a not for profit. You can put your money to a not for profit, man. I'll start a not for profit and take 121,000. Like if you got this money, I'm like I'm not paying." And he said, "Mike," he said, "Man, I'm excited about paying these taxes."
Yes.
He said because there was a time when I didn't have taxes to worry about, but guess what? I had no profit to worry about either. Right? There was no profit, and therefore there was no taxes. And he's like, that was not a good thing. He, he said, you could have took me out to lunch, and I would have gave you this 20 acres. You could have had anything you wanted from me. Like, but now I'm I'm happy that I have to pay these taxes. So now that's for me, that's a new point of reference because all I'm hearing up until this point, at least this is the narrative, right? Run the tax man this, the tax man that. You don't pay. So most people I know didn't even pay taxes. The tax that this guy had a thought frame of, this is joy to pay this taxes. This whatever, right? I could have did whatever I wanted to do. I wish I could have did whatever, but I'm going to think about it. That's a different. So that's how when I look at a point of reference, instead of competition, it's like, okay, this is exposure. And guess what? Sometimes you'll get to it, and like the brother said, do your due diligence, your why, their why, and so on and so forth. And then sometimes you'll be like, man, I don't even want to get there. Like, and you can see sometimes it's so the vibration is so heavy. You be like, this dude is miserable. Like, like
Mm.
yeah, he's worth it, but you can just tell I don't want no part of it. I don't care how much money it is because there's not enough money that you can trade for a peace of mind, right? That there's no exchange for that, black man. There's no
Mm.
exchange for a peace of mind. Your peace of mind is worth everything. So you want to cultivate it that way. So look at someone, pay attention to it, observe it. That's a point of reference. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, and then you move forward, right? And you establish your habits based on yourself, ultimately.
Mm. That's great. I love that mindset too. I know I know I was while I was running with Jamie, there was multiple coaches that would just come to me and they were just like, it was the same conversation. It was like, guys, what you be glad when you get to the point where your taxes are that high, like you've done something, that's where you want to get. And not in the essence of vainly thinking about this. I don't want to put that message out there. I'm just saying in the point of, if your goal is to make X amount of dollars, there are going to be some brand new challenges that come. and greet those wholeheartedly. I love it. You were talking with Beethoven about that, and he's like, I love that. I was talking to my boy Alain just a couple days ago, and he was talking about taxes also. And I gave him a new frame of reference, new thought, a new point of reference, a new thought pattern. I was like, listen, we have been blessed to be able to do that. This is something that we had not had to do before, but think about it this way. You get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You get to do this. This is what comes with the goal that you've set inside of your heart and your mind. And because this is new to you, it means that a new problem, is really a new challenge, which is a new opportunity. When you start to think about it like that, it changes that thing that was once negatively written inside of your mind, and it makes it a positive note inside of your mind. So let me keep going. And that's the idea. Let me keep going. Mm-hmm. Because this new opportunity means that I'm on my way to where I desire to be at. It's like when you're on the football field, there's a whole lot. If you're on the 1 yard line, and you've got to go 99 yards to get to, your touchdown, the defense is going to hit you as hard as possible. You don't have room to move, because it's just, you got 1 yard and right now it's like touchback. They're going to take them points. You don't have, so there's a lot of pressure to get out of that first 10 to 20 yards to get out. There's a lot of pressure. And because they don't have to spread their defense out real heavy, because they know you can't move. You can't drop back and throw a Hail Mary. No, you don't have that much space. So the pressure is heavy to start forming a new habit. But once you get out 20 yards, 30 yards, you can stretch out. You can start to pivot. You can start to throw long passes. You can start to do in and outs. You can run the ball if you want to mix it up. You got a whole lot more leverage because you have momentum. But then once you go from your 20, you go to their 20, and you start to press up them last 20, all of a sudden it becomes crunch time, because they know you can only throw the ball but so far, and you're in the end zone. So their defense is tighter. And so it becomes more difficult to go those last 20 yards. So just remember, when you're developing these new habits to get to your success point, you're going to have a heavy lift in the very beginning because you're just getting started. Once you get momentum, you're going to be able to start to take flight and to do things that you had never been able to do before, because resistance is not as strong when you've got momentum. But the closer you get to your goal, resistance is going to start to impound, because your mind is going to start to think, I'm almost there. And it feels like you've been going for so long, your mind starts to trick you into thinking, oh, you've been doing this for so long. Why are you doing this anyway? Why? You're tired, you're beat up, you got hit by this and that and this. All these problems are happening, and you got to, it's not a problem, it's a challenge. And then you got to, it's not a challenge, this is my next opportunity. And you got to switch it from a negative narrative to a positive narrative. You got to look backwards and see them 80 yards that you have come. You got to start to say, 80 yards? Man, y'all, all of y'all get out of my face. I ain't got nothing but 20 more yards to go. That's it. Oh, man, you know what? Instead of 20, I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to go another 80. I'm going to run straight through the end zone and into the crowd. I'm going to run out of the stadium and go sit on my mama's car. That's what you got to start thinking. I'm going to go into the next stadium, and I'm going to make a touchdown there too. I'm just going to keep on running until I make a touchdown in the next stadium. And it's like that crazy type of thinking is what hinges the greatest habits of success, because you are so far out of the box that the resistance has become so minimal. And then this is where I want to bring this in, because you mentioned that thing about your dad, and I just love that, because this is something that I was thinking about within the last week or two. Mike's out there lifting, boom, 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 pushing up this great amount of weight. You know, I'm out there lifting, I'm pushing up my great amount of weight, right? And then his dad shows up pushing no weight in the gym, not even looking at the gym, just like a whole lot of other people out there. There was this one man named Fred. I used to love working with him. He was just old country strong, big old dude. I went to go arm wrestle him after I had been hitting the gym for many times with Jimmy Lewis. And Jimmy was teaching me. He was a big old strong Hulk-like black dude that just crazy strong. And he had me just looking like boulders on my shoulders. And I thought I was the it, y'all. And so Fred came in there. He was like, "You doing all that lifted weights?" And, humble as he was, I was like, "Yeah, man." He was like, "Well, let's arm wrestle." I'm like, "Oh, challenge accepted, right?" I got to show up because all the boys are looking at me and I've been lifting weights. Man, I get up there, put my arm like this, and I get ready to go, and Fred just whack. This old man just laid me out. He must have been about 60 years old, and I was probably early 30s, late 20s, something like that, late 20s probably. And I'm just lifting, my arms all swollen up, plump and everything from lifting so much weight. And he just decimated me. And Jimmy just laughed so hard that he ran out the room laughing. Y'all know how black people do. Gosh, man, I'm talking about just laughed so hard he ran out the room laughing, just so he could bring his laughter to the other people in the office, and they would have to ask, "What are you laughing about?" And he could say, "Man, Joel thought he could arm wrestle Fred, and Fred beat him in 2 seconds flat."
It was a setup.
Oh, it was a setup from the get up. So this is the thought, y'all. Now that I went on that little rant, this is the thought, and I wrote it down while Mike was talking. Effort may appear easy, but the truth is the mind of the individual simply has raised their baseline. It's not that what they're doing is easy. It's just that their mind has raised their baseline. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to say this, but I'm not going to read it. What I mean by that, it's like Mike's dad. His baseline, because of construction and because of his life and all the other things, was 80-pound bags is normal. So he's not putting in, he doesn't have to push to 80 pounds. He's just, hey, this is just what I do. It's just what I do. I don't even feel it. I just move this because the job's got to get done. Now, when I go and pick up the 80-pound bag, I got to prepare for the resistance, because this is not what I do. I don't just go and get, 180-pound bags a day and move them from my truck to the work site. I don't do that. Can I lift the 80 pound? I can lift it over my head. But every time I do that, I prepare myself. It's a different mindset. It's not my baseline. It's not my baseline. If that was my baseline, I would just go and pick it up and move it on. Where it's not that it's less difficult. It's just that my baseline is at that 80 pounds or maybe even above. So it appears that it is effortless to the individual who has made that their new baseline. This is where Mike started with, about raising the baseline. So every time I go to the gym, even when I get underneath a weight that I know I can lift, if it is still toggling back and forth in my mind of whether or not it's heavy, it is not my baseline. So I still am pushing with some effort to get it up over me, even though I've already lifted it 12 times. It still is difficult because my baseline is not like, oh, you know what? This is just 100 This is just 185 pounds. Just let me just go ahead and get that out of my way. All right, now come on, bring some real weight. My brain has not done that yet. So the habit is it is not foundational. It is not a new foundation yet. I'm still digging it out. You got to transfer that mindset, and then you have to align your body set. You have to align your spiritual set. You have to align your emotional set. And then you have to make that your baby. And you got to walk on it. You got to talk on it. You got to live it. And at that point in time, and Mike, I thought about this because I started to think about how much I could lift. And I would go and I would do something at work, and I would have to like put effort into it. And I thought in my own mind, I didn't say it out loud, but I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. I lift more than this. Why is, and it's because something that I was doing, it was not normalized for me. So I realized, why am I putting it? It's because I did not bring the right effort to the task. When I bring the right effort to the task on a habitual matter, a habitual or a rhythmic way, and I bring the right effort every single time, then all of a sudden it looks effortless to others. It's just because I know I've got to put that much into this and move it. Until then, I'm going to lift it, and it's going to be a surprise to me. Oh, this is actually heavy. Shoot, how many we? There's 7 more of the bags in there. Oh, this is stupid. The sun is hot. I ain't got no water. I ain't ate today. I stayed up all night long. Why am I doing this? I could pay somebody to do this, and I could be doing something better with my, and that's the resistance, because my baseline is still beneath the level that I desire to walk. I got to go to the basement to get the strength. So that's resistance. And resistance manifests itself like procrastination, lack of motivation, being comfortable in existing routines. And I got to step out of my comfort zone and move into a zone that is not comfortable. And I got to make that new zone comfortable. That's how I raise my baseline. But don't stay there, because once you get comfortable in that one, somebody give you an 85-pound bag and you'll be back at square one. Keep raising that baseline, because you raise the baseline before it becomes a baseline, not after. Yeah, man.
This is good, man. I have nothing else to add to it. The brother, like, this is it, man. This is what we talking about, and I'm so happy that we were into this habits, because you know we talk about some real deep things. And I could just tell, not I could tell people come and say, man, I don't know, I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite there yet. You know how deep you all are. I'm not quite there yet. Well, this is that foundational stuff. This is the habits, man. So pay attention to that. I hope you all enjoyed it. Listen, don't chase the flows, because you're gonna have your good days. Don't fear the ebbs, because it's days that you're not going to be quite, you know, you're not going to be quite up to it. Sleep, nutrition, someone called you and said the wrong, whatever it is. You focus on on just raising your baseline, and that's that half and that 1%. Create these habits that raise your baseline. So I'm going to ask you personally, what's one habit that you can just kind of lock in, and not for the hype of it, but just you can lock in and what you're going to do for life. Like, pick something that you're going to do for life, this one habit, and you find the baseline of this thing, right? You find your baseline, and then you just pick that one thing just to raise something for life. Because the one thing about this journey is that the marathon continues, right? Nipsey Hussle, the marathon is gonna continue. So you want to start to establish these habits and that raise your baseline for life. So that way, by the time you do get to 70, you can pick up this 80-pound bag of thin set or mortar or whatever it was, move it. Now let me tell you something. He did tell me to go get it from the car though. He said, "Hey," he said, "Hey, go." He said, "Can I buy this?" What he said? "Can I borrow your muscles, man?" And I said, "Okay." He said, "Can you take that?" But I'm glad he did, because it made me aware. Like, man, this dude, he lifted it all the way this way. You know what I mean? He got it to the cart. He took it to Home Depot, whatever it was. And some 70 or an 80, they cannot do that. But that's because this baseline, this establishing these certain habits that were, the brother used the word before, conducive. Really, this is my word, conducive. To his future goals, which is living a healthy life, right?
Mm,
Um, Joe, what do you want to close on? Anything else with your perspective? Anything else
I
before
love it,
we
man.
close it out?
Let's close it out.
People, we love you, man. This is Community Beacon. Tune in. Go watch the last episode about environments. I think that was very, very powerful. The week
Hmm.
before that about awareness, that was really, really powerful. You watch it, have your kids watch it, have your friends watch it. Give us a like. We'll continue on this conversation. This is steady growth, right?
Steady
This
growth.
is steady growth. The brother and I have been at it for 3, 4 years. Which one
Yeah.
is it?
4 years,
Yeah.
community beacon. 20 2021, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Might
So
have been
and
the end of 2020.
might have been I think it was the end of 2020. So 4 or 5 years of just this steady, consistent growth, and I'm telling you, go back, watch episode 1 to now, you see it. It's apparent physically, mentally, spiritually, because life doesn't stop for us, right? Like, we get some ebbs, right? Like, just like you. We get some ebbs just like you. Guess what? We get some flows just like you. And we're still here, and we're just raising our baseline week after week, man. Come do it with us, man. So I appreciate you. I love you. We'll see you next week.